Hello, one and all. I'm Matt Williamson. Your Steelers are 3-0. Times are good. Let's do a deeper dive into the Steelers' eventually dominating win over the LA Chargers. And as we usually do on Tuesdays, I want to start with snap counts. Probably won't shock you, but Daniels, Moore, Fields, Frazier, Broderick Jones all played every snap, 68 snaps. Spencer Anderson played 54. Freiermuth was out there for 55. More on that in a minute here, but I'm very encouraged by that development. Pickens for 50, Najee for 40, Scott Miller for 38. That's a lot more than I expected. He outsnapped Austin 38-37. Darnell Washington for 35, Mason McCormick 25. That's quite a bit. Cordell Patterson for 23, as well as Jaylen Warren for 23. Van Jefferson and Connor Hayward each played 11. Rodney Williams and Minkah Fitzpatrick played 2 offensive snaps. That's what you do when you're in victory formation. You put Minkah Fitzpatrick out there to make a tackle in case disaster happens. Let's hope he plays a lot more offensive snaps this year. Defensive snap counts for the Steelers. Minkah played all 46. As did Queen and Porter. Watt and Elliott played 44 apiece. Again, Watt's playing 44 out of 46 snaps. Dante Jackson, 41. Cam Hayward, 34. Larry Ogunjobi, 32. 26 for Benton. Highsmith lasted 25. Bishop was out there for 25. Landon Roberts outpaced Peyton Wilson, 21-20. Herbig chipped in with 19. And then we wrap it up with Loudermilk at 9, Liao at 8, Lowry at 6, KZ only 6, Adams only 5, Pierre 2, and Trice 1. I didn't realize Pierre was out there on defense at all at any point, but nice to grab him off the waiver wire for nothing. Now, Chargers offensive snap counts, I'm just going to highlight a couple. Dobbins played 30 of those 46. Slater lasted 30 of those 46. Jamari Saylor was one of the offensive linemen that had to come in. He played 17. Their big D tackle fullback, Patrick Ricard dude, was out there for 17. Edwards only played 16. Gus the Bus compared to 30 for Dobbins. And Heineke wrapped things up with 10 snaps. That's how many snaps we got of Heineke, just 10. And then of the defensive snap counts, the only thing that I found really of note that you guys would care about was Joey Bosa only lasted 2 snaps. That is fortuitous for the Steelers. There's no question about that. But Bosa's also not the pillar of health over his career. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From NFL to college, BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head over to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE, that's all caps, BLEAV, and get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. As I often do, I have a handful of just bullet points to discuss from this game. And then probably tomorrow we'll do a mailbag / news and notes. Maybe even take a quick look at the division, that sort of thing. And then really dig into the Colts for the last 2 of the lead up period here. The Steelers had 14 first downs in the second half. In the second half, they got a first down 14 different times. That's not bad for a game. So, yes, they only scored 20 points in this game. Only. Not like this team scores 40 all the time. But realize there was a 10 plays drive here where the they're just moving down the field. Najee had a 21-yard run coming out of the 2-minute warning, and they took 2 knees on the 1-yard line. So would you feel better if it was 27-10? What's the difference? I mean, the game was over. They whipped them. We talked about Scotty Miller a little bit there, played a fair amount of snaps. He only had 2 catches for 31 yards, but they were both for first downs on a scoring drive. They were clutch, important conversions. His first catch was a 20-yard catch and run, came on the Steelers' first touchdown drive in the first half. So you could argue they don't do that without Miller. I'm not saying him and Austin are great, but they're contributors, you know. A huge thing that I took away from this game was Fields won from the pocket. Fields won from the pocket. That is a huge turn of events. Week 1, they rightfully avoided those Atlanta safeties and threw no passes between the numbers. They'd roll them out gently to the right or left, and he'd either throw one outside the numbers or run it. Well, that's not going to last forever. I mean, defensive coordinators catch on to such things. And Harbaugh's smart. His coordinators are smart. They did a good job of keeping Fields in the pocket. And he ripped them up. I watched... I haven't had a lot of time, so I only watched all of his stuff versus blitz today. And Fields has been the most blitz quarterback in the league. He tore their blitzes up. He made a lot of passes in this game between the numbers, but more than anything with timing and anticipation and on time. You know, I mean, getting it out before guys came out of their breaks. We also saw a lot of him moving safeties with his eyes, starting to his right when he knows he's going to go to the left. Boom. Pretty high level quarterbacking stuff from the pocket. J.K. Dobbins finished with 44 yards on 15 attempts after averaging 9.9 yards per carry coming into this game. He had 1 run of 13 yards. Other than that, that's 31 yards on 14 attempts. Which, who really cares? I mean, that run existed. Let's not pretend like it didn't happen. I mean, in the end, it was 7 yards less than his yards per carry average when he entered the game. It's pretty good. And Gus Edwards and Dobbins were basically a 50-50 timeshare coming into this. But they know they needed their better guy, and they gave Dobbins 83% rush share. You know, if they're handing it off 83% of the time, it went to Dobbins. But his previous high was only 47%. Gus Edwards saw a season low 17% rush share. Only 3 rush attempts. Because it wasn't run the clock out or playing a bad team. You know, they needed their best guy, and they didn't deliver. The Steelers have yet to allow a touchdown in the second half of a game, only allowing 2 field goals over 3 games in the second half. That's pretty awesome. If you're going to allow 2 field goals over 3 games in the second half of games and no touchdowns, that's just dominance that gets better as the game goes on. I saw this from Dale's column. The Steelers had not won a game in which they lost the turnover battle since October of 2020 against the Titans, a game that they won 27-24 despite turning the ball over 3 times and 0 for Tennessee. In that span, the Steelers had gone 0-18-1 when losing the turnover battle. You and I have talked about this to no end. But I thought it was encouraging. They lost the turnover battle in this one, 0-1. But it doesn't mean that they can't win now. Oh, they threw an interception. That means they're going to lose. Oh, they lost the turnover battle. Oh, shows in the last 0-18-1 that they're never going to win those games. Well, maybe times are changing a little bit. Maybe. Some other observations here. I thought Frazier and Daniels were pretty dominant inside. That those two were playing at a really high level. I thought it was a pretty rough game for Anderson. I found out today that he was favoring something. I think it was a knee or something lower body on the sidelines at one point. So let's keep an eye on that. Maybe we'll pop up on the injury report. I don't think it's like anything serious, but giving him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he wasn't at his best. Khalil Mack was really good in this game for the Chargers. He was definitely a bright spot for them. And he gave both the Steelers tackles hard time. But all in all, I give Broderick Jones the thumbs up for this game. Considering all the scrutiny, wasn't expected to start till the very end. I thought he played a pretty solid game and was an encouraging get-right situation for him. Again, I mentioned some of the Miller stuff before on offense, but they got quite a bit out of Miller and Austin. I'm not willing to say that, boy, they're fine at wide receiver. I'm not ready for that. But they've gotten a lot out of Miller and Austin. You know, Jefferson went down. These guys were solid contributors that you're glad they're on the team type of dudes. The two guys that worried me most that we've talked about a lot on this defense were Bishop and Queen. And there's a chess joke in there somewhere. But I thought this was the best game Bishop has played in the Steeler uniform, and definitely the best game Queen played in the Steeler uniform. So if your weaknesses are getting better, and there weren't massive ones on a really, really good defense, again, really encouraging. I thought the big guys, I always call them the 300-pounders, you know, the D linemen, were a little underwhelming other than Cam Hayward, who was awesome and big brother-ish in terms of the way he treated some of his opponents in this game. You know, quit hitting yourself. And I'm not going to say Adams didn't hardly play, but Benton, Ogunjobi, I'm not saying they were bad. I just thought they were okay or average or, you know, wasn't their best performance. Fields was only under pressure on 25% of his dropbacks. You compare that to 40% for Herbert and 60% for Heineke. And they blitzed him only 31% of the time, which is really low for him. Like you said, he's been like the most blitzed guy in the league. But my hunch is he was handling it so well that they probably backed off. 31% blitz rate against Fields is low. Cordero Patterson, highly effective, very efficient on limited touches. I haven't gotten any word that Warren got injured or is still injured, but he hasn't looked as quite right to me all year. And I kind of look at that as a positive, that I bet that day's coming. And maybe they're saving him a little bit with a third back now in the mix, that heaven forbid Najee goes down, maybe just whip Warren out of the closet and give him 75% of the touches out of the backfield. But something to monitor. I don't think by any stretch, and I know Arthur Smith loves Cordero Patterson. The team loves Cordero Patterson. But I don't think that he's ahead of Warren on the depth chart or anything. But we'll see on that. That's just a little peculiar. The Steelers converted a set of downs into a new set of downs or touchdowns 73% of the time in this game. That's a massive number. Like if you're at 2/3, that's really good. The Chargers were at 52%. It's pretty bad, you know. And again, that's how Watt can play 88% of the snaps or whatever, because the offense is holding the football. Two more things here. Pickens and Freiermuth, and this is more important for Freiermuth, they ran a route on 89% of the Steelers' dropbacks. That is really high for Freiermuth. It's high for any tight end, but he's been a little lackluster amongst the top 10, 15 tight ends in the league in terms of percentage of routes run per dropback. And if you're not running around as a tight end, you're either pass blocking or you're not on the field. So there's been too much of that, and I think that that's a really encouraging sign for Freiermuth, who I thought was really good in this game too. Last note I have for you, the punter. He's been good. Waitman might be fine. You know, like we were joking on the air today, you know, the bar is low after the Johnston injury. Just don't bring Harvin back. Just don't be the worst punting team in the league. They didn't bring Harvin back, and they never were going to, by the way. But Waitman through 2 games has been not as good as Johnston would have been. Again, I was pretty distraught about that. But it's not going to be, doesn't look like it's going to be bad. It looks like it's going to be way better than it was last year or during their Harvin era overall. So good. All right, everyone. Talk soon. See ya.